So we look ahead now to this Tagiwa Club Enduro Championship race. It is the 5th round of 7 to take place during the course of this season. The lights are still on red. They go out now, and we're off and running here at Silverstone with this big field of cars heading towards Abbey for the first time. So it's Will Stacey in that little blue Lotus Elise on the inside line, but he's going to lose out to the much bigger car. 2 drivers left. That is the car being started by Carl Swift, the Seat Leon TCR car. A spin very early on in the race for Luke Browse in car number 22. That car started on row 6 of the grid, so he will be dropping right towards the back of the field. And briefly got a change for second there as James Marston, the second of those Seat Leons, briefly got ahead of Will Stacey, but I think Stacey put that right through the link. And as they head down to Hangar for the first time in this race, it should be, we see the car of Rod Baker and Carl Swift, started by Carl Swift leading the race.
Yeah, so Carl starting to try and check out a little bit. Everybody else in second at the end of this first lap. 3 of them Seats or indeed Cupras. As to the inside line, the number 15 car will go. Colin Gillespie looking for a way by. The other car that started on the front row, Will Stacey, just getting bogged down a little bit, swallowed up by the TCR cars, effectively the hatchbacks that are higher, as Ian has mentioned, from the lower slot of Lotus Elise, but that's not preventing them at the moment it's preventing the Cupras and the Seats from heading right to the front of the order with 1 lap already in the book. But I suppose the game plan here, from Will Stacey's point of view, is just staying in the mix.
That's absolutely right. Now in Class B, it looks like Chris Freeman has taken the lead there, and Luke Handley, who was on Class B pole position, he has dropped down to 17th place overall, so about 5th within Class B as well. So a poor start from Luke Handley in the Golf, and losing out to the teammate car, the fellow area Motorsport VW Golf with Chris Freeman. So he has gone through, and on the first lap it looks like Nick Dougal and John Monroe. We didn't know who was starting that car, but certainly the Dougal and Monroe car, I suspect John Monroe therefore who started it, has got into the lead ahead of the BMW of Dan Orsano, going towards the end of lap 2 already.
And Carl Swift is already through Vale Corner and Club, but he's not embroiled in this nose-to-tail fight for second position, involving 3 Cupras and then the Will Stacey driven Lotus. I assume, as far as driver names are concerned, Mike Gritchie cannot be relied upon, because for instance Rod Baker is number 1 cover. I think that's just because he's driver 1.
Yes.
And that's what's churned out from our timing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the start drivers as provided on my sheet. Hopefully you've got...
oh yeah, I've got a copy of that as well.
Yeah, it's
1 or 2 bits of paper.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. 2 hours, 2 minutes to go. So very in the early stages of the and that's Alan Henderson there, out of shape. There's number 37, that's Andy Marston. He is in battle with number 69, Matthew Hampson. So that is a call that Andy Schultz will take over in the later stages of this race. And Andy Schultz in the 69 pole will be much the quicker driver of the 2. It's quite interesting this, because most of these teams do have 2 drivers to change to the mandatory pit stop. As we watch now the 67 car in, this is Julian McBride. Now he is a solo driver, so this is obviously an unscheduled stop, because you can't make a mandatory stop until you get to the 30-minute point within the race. And it looks like they're looking at something there on the front right of Julian McBride's car, the driver from Woodcote in Oxfordshire, who is 55 years of age. So dramas early on for Julian McBride.
Yeah, they were shaking the front right wheel around. It didn't be off the ground though, just to check the integrity of the hub maybe. Perhaps the tracking arm has been bent out of shape. Been busy in the middle order in the opening stages, no doubt about it. And Carl Swift is just pleased to be up the road by 2.7 seconds. But on this short lap, it's really not going to take too long for him to start to find traffic. For the time being, he has an open road in front of him. Behind is the 86 car then of the Townsend and Joe Marshall combination. Marshall starting that car from 3rd position. In 3rd place it is Ben Rushworth, who started well, qualified in 6th, but already up to 3rd.
Yes, the hot hatch champion from a few seasons ago had a late call-up at the beginning of this season to race this Corton Miller Seat. And, he's been pretty rapid on the occasions that he's done so far. He's bits of historic racing as well, making Metros initially with Ben Rushworth. There's quite a few different kinds of racing ways, right? Whatever turns his hand to. That is the 14-car Chris Greenwich company. He is our Class B leader at the moment as we're watching Andy Marston make a place here on the Ryan Parkin and Dan Sylvester Audi. It's that car that we're on board with now, just watching the BMW go through, and I think he also lost another position as well, didn't he? Is that to the Wallace Seat, possibly? Up ahead.
Yeah, Wallace was the Wallace car was the next in the sequence. 3 abreast into the right-hander at Village, a battle that involves the 46 car of Matty Taylor, which is the Holden Commodore. Tucked in behind is the Honda Civic. 707 is the BMW in behind there as well. Now, is there a chance for Stacey or Boston, whichever is in that car?
Will Stacey.
Okay, so Will Stacey to the outside line, and a really good overtake that on Ben Rushworth to get one of the places that the little Lotus lost at the start back again, although Rushworth not too happy with that, and they're absolutely nose to tail looking at the inside line at Abbey Corner. Almost contact. The rear diffuser protrudes quite a bit out the back of the number 49 Lotus. Cooper driver did well not to snatch that.
Yep, absolutely right. So watching those going through Village, so he's now tucked in behind the 86 car of Joseph Marshall, another of these Seat Lan TCR cars, which seem quite popular. Oh, and the 11 cars now in the pit garages, so that's disaster for Ryan Parkin and Daniel Sylvester. That's a car that has gone well on occasions this season, but sadly out of the racing. So I think that's his Julia McBride's car that we're still having a look at as well, isn't it? Now that's the 60 car in fact, so there's another car that we're looking at now, which is the car of Roger Coy and Callum Lockie, isn't it? Yes. Callum Lockie it was that started that car, so that's now back into the pit lane. So BMW is actually an early strike, which is most of BMW, right?
Yes. So, they switched to BMW. That's now there's a quarter on my sheet, but again, clashing paperwork. Porsche 968.
So possibly, yes, you might quite well be right. I was reading the wrong line, I think.
Front end.
Yes, that would work.
Yeah, it certainly didn't look like a BMW straight 6, but Porsche 968. I haven't done a lot of work on those cars, so I wouldn't know for a fact. Anyway, Carl Swift, I do know, is leading this race in his Cupra, I want to say. A lot of these run with the Cupra badges on the front, so they're down on the entry list as Seats, but Joseph Marshall's, for instance, the 86, definitely a Cupra, and being shadowed all the way by a rampant Will Stacey. Stacey to the left, to the right. He's already got ahead of Rushworth for 1 position. That gave him 3rd, and this is for 2nd place, although Rushworth not allowing that to lie either. They will arrive at Stowe Corner as 1, ducking underneath the Mini there at Stowe Corner. That will be the Cooper, possibly the Jones and George combination of 58.
Some Jones in the wheel of that car at the moment, but Stacey is trying everything possible to get past Joseph Marshall in that on the 86 car, Capture Motorsport paired vehicle. It's allowed Ben Rushworth to sort of really go with him as well. The leading car, Coltswood, is really 7 seconds off the road man. There it is. Just going to lap the number 98 car. That's Roy Baptiste at the wheel of that one, and also 53, which is Dan Orsano at the moment. So that's a battle for position in Class C. Actually, for 3rd position within Class C. And as there, Will Stacey has done it, hasn't he? He's got ahead of Joseph Marshall now, and up to 2nd place. And now he's going to try and lap the Treble 8 McGann at Bryson Miller.
It's interesting hearing from Will earlier on in the day, talking about who chosen to go into the car initially for qualifying, as again there's overlapping taking place. Great straight line speed. You wouldn't have thought that Cooper was more slippery than a Lotus, but nevertheless if they were to pick him off is Marshall at the end of the hangar straight and around the outside. Now did that stick? No, not quite. Still, 2 Coopers are behind the Lotus Elise.
Yep, so they are very close together indeed, aren't they? They turn their way through Club Corner and towards the end of their 8th lap of the race already. We've had about 10 minutes of the race so far, so they go over the line. The 3rd and 4th nose to tail. There's then a bit of a gap back to another Vallejo. That's Gillespie. Well, the Phil Driver starts in the car in 5th place. Henderson's Lotus in 6th. But here you can see Will Stacey trying to get back marks between himself and the 86 car. Now the 86 car's got its wipers on. I'm looking out of our commentary box window to see if it's actually rain. I'm not sure it is.
And not, yeah, there was a sprinkling of rain in the air just before the cars were summoned to the grid. So it might be that period of the day where we're going to get passing showers, but only the slightest bit of precipitation. Might only affect 1 or 2 corners on this short lap of Silverstone, the Silverstone International Circuit. Heading down towards Stowe again. Now Will Stacey is establishing more of a gap in 2nd place from Marshall and Rushworth behind. Those two are going to think about overlapping. Again, TCR cars, no stranger to cut and thrust of racing, and certainly what we've got barely 10 minutes into this 125-minute affair. Joseph Marshall heading out of Club Corner to whip across the timing line once again. 3rd and 4th positions with a bigger gap back to that same sort of size gap back to 5th place. We get another Spanish car, a Cupra for Gillespie and Driver, about 3 seconds to the rear.
Well, Stacey, number 49, 22 years of age. I did have to look that up because he looks very young, does Will Stacey. So I did look it up, and he looks youthful for his 22 years, does Will Stacey. And show that car with Rob Bottom. He's now about 3 seconds clear of these two, Marshall and Rushworth lay on the battle position. But you can see the Mazda, the number 3 TWP Racing Mazda, has also got its wipers going. So that's John Munro. He's Scottish, so he should know what it's like to see rain on the windscreen, I should think. But he, of course, is being lapped there by the 2 Cupras that are heading down towards Vale Corner, and they're almost side by side this time. Maybe an endurance race, but Ben Rushworth is certainly keen to get up ahead of that very similar car.
Joseph Townsend heading now through the right sector of Marshall, heading through the Club Corner. We've now got small raindrops on our commentary box window. I noticed Abbey, so that will back up Joseph Marshall's decision to turn the wipers on. Bright lime green BMW has come into pit lane, maybe bearing some scars on the front line. A bigger concern is a smoking, well, that's water temperature, I would say, on sky high.
Yeah. Bonnet's going down, so that's a bit of a, that's not really further type gesture, isn't it? That's Jonathan Barrett, I think, in the number 7 car, who has going to drop out of the race there. So disappointment for him. Yeah, he's doing his best. There and a very sad look in his eyes.
I mean, he struggled in qualifying in the shorter race that he did yesterday, 707 BMW. It was really fun to watch him come through the order after a good pit stop in the 45-minute Enduro on Saturday. So, yeah, this early on in a 2-hour race, 2 hours and 5-minute race, to be out already, clearly you stand to lose far more than you will gain pushing that car with the engine temperature already sky high, but lots of internal damage. So something you've got to swallow, unfortunately. Come back fighting in the next meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just watching a moment ago the leading Bacon circuit car switching around to takes the run off air to go round the outside of one of the Golfs there. As we continue to watch this back in 3rd position between Rushworth in number 2 and Marshall in number 86. They are about 3.5 seconds clear of Phil Driver, who is making only the most modest of progress towards them in another of the Leons. Just about to see him in the background of the shot there, and behind him is Alan Henderson in the Lotus Elise, one of the similar cars, the number 10 car, which they are lapping at the moment. That's being the car of Fenwick and Shepherd. Fenwick will be that's no Class B car, but from the Class A car,
Mason in the mix there in the number 87 Clio, Cup car, just on a lap down compared to these two Cupras that occupy third and fourth. It's a similar car in fifth in the hands of Phil Dryborough, and then solo competitor Alan Henderson in the 166 comes next, the Elise is mentioned. A reminder that it is still Carl Swift who leads by 5.2 seconds, and that is the gap visually back to the royal blue, metallic royal blue, Lotus Elise of Will Stacey. So Rob Boston to come a little bit later on. It'll be interesting to see how they split the race. Probably only one driver change. You can do this race from a regulation point of view with just the one mandatory stop. Just a question of whether you can do that on fuel an hour, but even these high-powered cars is probably fine. On front of that, VW Golf is shaking around at terminal speed there, just before it slows for the right-hander at the Stowe corner. Got the older shape Seats behind, which is car number 31. Yes,
That's Mike Moraes. So just on the time scale, just where Luke Hamilton goes. So maybe that full start of the race in Class B. He's still fourth in Class B. Just 3 minutes to Scott Martin. Second place number 12, and it's the Q64K that's third. This personal best lap of the race as well. So we'll see it continue to improve after that disappointing start. Class B pole man and championship leader.
So in the race, despite Chapman being on the side of the car, Chapman will join in a little later, tackling this next challenge, which is to overtake Joe Williams. And he can do it between Village and the Link, the right-hander there onto the hanger straight. So well timed, good poke clearly in the lower gears for the older Seat. And he jumps ahead of Joe Williams for 20th position. Also now, Phil Dryborough getting very close to a back marker, and Dryborough is threading the eye of the needle, still in that fifth spot.
Well, that was for position there.
Was it?
The Lotus of 166, Alan Henderson. So that's Henderson getting onto the tail of Phil Dryborough there. In fact, Henderson was ahead of on the previous lap, so Dryborough's got back in front. So the chops and changes there for fifth position between those two. The next car behind them is about 5 seconds down the road, Sam Larson in his BMW we saw out yesterday as well. They can see the change grid confirmed on the screen. Driver back ahead of Henderson for fifth position. There is Larson with 37th. He's only just ahead now of the Matthew Wallace Leon as well. That's in 8th position.
Dryborough out of our commentary box window there, had a big tank slapper on, had to get out the gas, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Alan Henderson back in front, in fact, if he could get all of that sealed before Village. Brilliant to see how each of these very different cars favours various different parts of the lap. The Lotus Elise clearly good through the tight, twisty stuff in the first sector, and then the Seat can pick off cars on the straight and narrow. 98 BMW in strife now as well, looking for a way back onto the circuit. That's the Warwick Upteast Tim Hartland car.
As we head down to Chris Stevens in the pit.
I'm down here at the garage for car number 11. Jake, can you tell us what the problem with the car was?
So basically, by the sounds of it, what the driver explained was he hit a sausage curb and then it felt like the wheel fell off. We believe there's been a bit of an internal gearbox hiccup. It's just not felt very well with itself, and he's come in, we've reset all the gearbox software, and he's gone out, and by the looks of it, the car's doing all right. There was no visible faults. There was a couple of electronic malfunctions in there, which we believe was caused by a bit of an impact from a sausage curb. He said wasn't that severe, but as racing drivers explained there, not severe to being severe is not that dissimilar. So fingers crossed, he goes all right. He's not going to win, but the car's all right, and that's the main thing.
You're expecting it to hold up for the rest of the race?
Yeah, it should hold up. We have got a spare car in the trailer if worst comes to the worst.
So what do you think you guys can achieve from here?
Going forward, I think we can sort of look into why it's done it, see if we can make any improvements internally to the gearbox or to the software itself to stop it malfunctioning in the future. I spoke too soon. He's back.
Yeah, unfortunately car number 11 coming back into the pits now, so it seems like whatever the issue was is recurring. So we will let the team get on with it and not try and get in their way as much as possible. Just give you an update on what else has been going on down here in the pit lane. Obviously Julian McBride was one of the first cars to come into the pit lane. He said that his car was pulling to the left. They had a quick look over the car, couldn't find anything strange, so sent him back out on his way. There were also gearbox issues for the number 32 car that came in. That's pulled into the garage just in front of me here. And obviously we've got quite a good look at the number 60 Porsche just behind us that was smoking quite a lot as it came into pit lane and has been leaking fluids all over the nice pit lane here at the international pits at Silverstone. And one last thing, obviously Jonathan Barrett in the number 7 Saxon Motorsport car, quite a popular entry, having had that car rebuilt after quite a nasty shunt at the first meeting of the season, said that he lost power steering. So quite a lot going on in the opening stages of this club enduro race. Let's go back to you, Ian.
Thank you for all of those updates. Chris, good to know what's been going on down there, the various dramas that we've had, various cars, including that Porsche of Roger Coy and Callum Lockie. So we've just had just over 20 minutes of this race so far, an hour and 44 minutes are left to go in this race. It is Carl Swift that is leading, but the gap between first and second is down to 1.25 seconds, and these are the two cars you can see heading down the hanger straight towards Stowe Corner now. Just let that back marking Mazda MX-5 go through. So these are the two leaders, Carl Swift and Will Stacey. They're just going through a shot there at Stowe Corner, and they're about to head down to Vale as well. So Will Stacey really has narrowed the gap to the race leader.
Got his head down and he's reeled in Carl Swift. We know that there's good speed in the Lotus Elise, and again, he's promising to be a real fraught battle sharp end, because the Lotus will find its speed on each and every lap in different places compared to the race leader. The TCR cars are strong down the Hamilton straight, down the hanger straight. Now we get to Abbey Corner. Aerodynamics, the downforce the Lotus is able to establish, indeed express, it is really useful for Will Stacey. Rob Boston still to come in this car. Remember, it'll be Rob Baker in the Carl Swift Cupra a little bit later on as well. Just jumping ahead of a few back markers and kicking up the dust into Will Stacey's face. That won't phase him though. Back onto the hanger straight, and they're going to have to be dodging through traffic pretty much all the way to the finish.
Yes, with still I think 35 cars out there probably. It's a very busy circuit here. They're lapping the number 66 car, which is the Hayes Subiani BMW. That is the car that is actually leading Class C now, because they've got ahead of the Mazda of John Munro, the number 3 TDI racing car. So they've just lapped the Class C leader for a second time now. Here come the leaders, through to complete lap number 19. That was 8 tenths of a second, down to 6 tenths of a second now. Lap times of the 1:13s there, so they're still only lapping about a second off the auto pace, even with all of the traffic that they're having to deal with, which is really quite impressive.
Joseph Marshall's pace, on the other hand, was about a second slower than the leading duo. He might be bogged down in traffic. In fact, no, he's absolutely side by side with his rival all race into Abbey Corner, running with Ben Rushworth, and they are completely engrossed in their own arm wrestle for third and fourth positions.
Now that car that we just saw in the pit, was that a 37 BMW? I think it may well have been of Andy Marston. That, yes, getting the nods on that, it is the Andy Marston car, so that's from 7th position, so that's quite significant. And again, it's too early to be a mandatory stop. They can start making their stops about 6 minutes from now, so problems for the leading BMW entry of Andy Marston. Just see he's lost a position now to Matthew Hampton. He's flicked into 8th place at the timing tower.
1:15.9 for Andy Marston as an in-lap would indicate he's off the pace, particularly as the timing loop is earlier in pit road than it is on the track, so costing 2, 3, 4 seconds in-lap, indicating some sort of problem which he wants to try and get sorted. There's plenty of race time still available to those that have had to make early stops and outside of the mandatory time. Meanwhile, 27 Audi turning right. This was the one difficulty this morning in qualifying. Massive amount of white smoke pouring out the back of the Audi. I was suggesting at the time it might have been a turbo failure. Clearly the engine's all right because the car's going well now, so if they change the turbo, hopefully that was a relatively quick fix. Drawing level with the VW Golf on the Hanger Straight. Car number 12, VW Golf now working its way into Stowe Corner and Scott Parkin.
Yeah, and that will be for 10th position, I think, won't it? So that will be up into the top 10 for the 27th car, which has been started by Mark Price. As into the pits goes one of the Golfs. Let's see which one that was. We'll get back to the scheduled stop. As there we see the 49 car of Will Stacey heading through. So he was 4 tenths behind at the end of the previous lap. The gap's gone out a bit now again, possibly because of traffic. And it's now 1.56 seconds.
Heading into Abbey now, so Carl Swift reacting nicely to the attack offered by Will Stacey. 112.84 for Carl last time through. There is Scott Parkin in 11th position then. Does that account for the 37 car now in the pit lane? Yes, 37 has dropped down the order of Andy Marsden. They're all in their right positions on our timing tower as well. Mark Bryce then occupying 10th. We have the cushion of the Clio Cup car of Simon Mason between them. And now in the pits, trying to cool down brakes, maybe on the VW Golf that was escaping into pit lane as you spotted here.
Yeah, so which one is that? Just looking to see the number on that. It's the 90-something car, isn't it? So 99 car, which is Joe Williams, his Golf. Now, where was he? He was 23rd last time we got on. Oh, the McGann's off the road as well. That's the Treble 8 car. So subtitles to see that one's heading into the pit lane. Well, not in the pit lane, but into a safe place. That's the Graham Price and James Miller car. It was James Miller at the wheel of it at the moment. So that's another time as well. Great.
Busy into the first corner with 4 cars organising for road position into Abbey as we concentrate on the run into Vale Corner, where arriving there is Phil Drybrook, still in it's not single digit,
That's the Wallace car.
Okay, yes, so 7th position for Wallace and Wallace. Behind is the 69 car. Race leader Carl Swift in the foreground. Dayglow yellow and white machine.
Will Stacey's being passed.
Slowing. Yes, he is.
Slowing.
Just about to say, look at the Lotus Elise in the royal blue. That's the 2nd place. Well, perhaps for not much longer, because Will Stacey, who had a great result yesterday as a solo driver in the 45-minute Enduro, this car has done plenty of laps this weekend. Surely we'll be heading for the pit lane. Can they sort this problem out at speed?
And there's the 2nd place, or the new 2nd place car then, which is the 86 car of Joseph Martin. Into the pits then goes number 49, Will Stacey from Boston Racing. Enters Lotus Elise. Now, is this something that the team can work on? Certainly you would think. Hopes of victory rapidly fading, because they were not so long ago just a few hundredths behind race leader Carl Swift. That's the number 12 car going through. Just Scott Parkin now just outside the top 10, but 2nd in Class B in that VW Golf. Still Chris Freeman leading in that class, number 14 in 9th place overall. But there's our race leader, and now he's got an advantage of something like 16 seconds over 2nd place, Joseph Marshall.
Headlights flashing from Carl as he reaches the end of the Hanger Straight. I noticed he skated right over the top of the curbing to the inside of the circuit as well as he headed onto the Hanger Straight. So it's a delicate balance as to how hard you push, particularly in the early stages with curbs, sausage curbs as well. And at least one of the cars we were hearing earlier on has come across because of the sausage curbs. So conversations need to be had, and quickly here, between Will Stacey and the rest of the team. To go up on its internal jacks, and we're hearing it's some sort of drive tray problem, maybe even drive shaft itself. Look at that massive rear diffuser on the back of the Lotus Elise of Stacey and Rob Boston. But lots of mileage, as I was making the comment here, already done by this Lotus, and maybe it's getting a little bit tired now, because the drive shaft problem is never going to be solved in race.
No, it's not. So the fact that the platform ranges before the pit stop window opens as well is pretty academic, I suggest there. Window should be opening about 15 seconds from now, and then drivers can start if they wish to make their mandatory stops. They have to do so before then the 15-minute mark remaining is reached, and each of those stops has to be 3 minutes at least, plus any success penalties that have to be served. So it's worth mentioning that Motorsport has a 30-second penalty to serve. Well, it's already 17 seconds clear of anybody else, and we're only half an hour into the race. So I don't think that necessarily would hold that area Motorsport Seat back from taking the overall victory today. See the Rice car going through. That is still in 10th position, number 27. That will improve, of course, as the Stacey and Boston cars, obviously talking about the top, which it now does.
Also just on sight of Andrew Rath, who is competing in another Seat. Many of the Leon TCRs on display this weekend and competing well. So Rath is in 11th currently. The car that's now in the pit lane has cycled out of the top 10 as we would have expected it to have done, but it takes about a lap for pit stoppers, and lengthy pit stoppers, to be taken away from current timing. Meanwhile, the 86th second position for Joseph Marshall, threading its way now through the right and left of the early part of the lap, through the link road onto the Hanger Straight again. Still ahead of Ben Rushworth. That gap stands at about a second on the Hanger Straight. Further back into the traffic, lights flashing for Alan Henderson's Lotus, the low-slung car behind the BMW on the Hanger Straight in 4.
Yes, so Henderson. Is that a series of small? I was about to say it's been a bit more reliable today than it was yesterday because it disappeared down the order and out of the race yesterday. But, if you already see the smoke, does that still count as a commentator's curse? I'm not quite sure.
So if you're saying everything's fine when it blatantly isn't, then I would suggest it is still a commentator's curse. But I think Alan Duncan, actually I might get back on that. I wonder whether it was maybe a heat haze, but I think it's slightly more serious than that.
We'll wait and see.
Indeed.
We'll wait and see what transpires with that car. I see that Luke Brow's car's got to 13th position now. That's the car that spun Abbey on the opening lap of the race, so they've had to find their way back from relatively low position at the Stone Market. That's it from BMW, which you can briefly see in the back of your shot there. There it is, that's the green car with the black font just ahead of Cayman being driven by Steve Houston, a former champion in Club Enduro. Let's not forget. There's the two-car of Ben Rushworth though, who started racing in 2014, a Metro champion, a hot hat champion as we said. These as well. Still trying to find a way past Jason Martin, as he has been that far around, so really working the race. The 86 car going through the second place overall at the moment. Jason Marshall and Gary Townsend. I think that might be the first appearance of the season for that car. It's the first time we've seen that particular car out there. So another addition to the grid in another Seat/Cooper Leon. And putting themselves very well at the moment. He did well to qualify well up the grid. There in third place. They're just lapping. Was that the 60 car back into the race?
I think it is, yeah, the 968 return to the race.
Yeah. So that's still in the hands of Callum Lockyer, I think, who's starting that car. Yeah, so that's the Mantis Days, early 2000s. That's right. Yeah. That fabulous paint scheme, sort of highlighted yellow, orange, blue. Very good days of the GT Championship. But it's
it's great to have that little Porsche back out on track. I'm also watching Alan Henderson's times. They're getting longer and longer. So I'll watch that with concern as we head to the pits. And Chris.
Well, it was the absolute hard brake. Can you tell us what the problem was?
We hit the drive shaft when going around. Yeah, I was catching up with the car, and all of a sudden it started vibrations. And I thought, oh, it's going to get worse every lap, and it did get worse every lap. And after about 10 laps, I clocked the back of the car, but I was going slower because of it. And then after that point, it just had it. Yeah, it just had it.
Well, I mean, you had a bit of a difficult start. Obviously, the cars around you a little bit more power in the opening lap, but you were coming back at them really well.
Yeah, they've got a lot more speed. They just fly past. Once it passed, you have to overtake them in going into the last section, because then you can get a gap on them through the next section. So by the time you get to the straight, you're flying up ahead. If you do them in the last section, in sort of the beginning of the track, they'll just have you down the straight.
Well, Rob Boston, the team boss, hasn't quite given up hope. Just the absolute your co-driver for today as well. Normally you're running solo, you've got Rob in the car today. He hasn't quite given up on this race just yet.
No, we think it might be fixable. So they're working at the moment. We may get a few laps out there, you know. Not for position, but there'll still be a few laps.
Well, we wish you all the best. We'll let you go in case you need to get ready. But in the meantime, let's go back to you, Ian and Johnny.
Thank you, Chris. Just under 90 minutes of the race left to go. That's the 92 car of Phil Knibb making its way around. That car qualified, but it's actually out of the back at the moment. There's the 12 car of Scott Parkin. He is at the moment running out top 10, second in Class B. Behind Chris Freeman at 14 at the Air Motorsport car. Chris 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in the championship in Class B. He did win the last of the rounds in Club Enduro. That was at Snetterton about 3 weeks ago. He's the fourth man in Class B. That's Sim Runway. That's the Paul behind us. 6th BMW from the Double Rose Mazda. The Darkside round top 3 in that class at the moment.
Inside of Andrew Rath will go the second place car of Joseph Marshall, and almost thinking about a very different line into Abbey was Ben Rushworth in the background, so don't confuse all of these Cupras to be on the same lap. In fact, that is the Rath car getting lapped by the second and third place cars. I'm a lot more comfortable with Alan Henderson's pace now because he's just done his best lap of the race, I should say, a 1:12.34. That's done on the previous lap. One just completed, so Alan Henderson's 1:66 Lotus Elise S2. If the problem's not hit yet, that's great news because the pace is clearly still there. I just hope it's got kind of delayed reaction. Very busy on the hanger straight. As darting to the inside is Ben Rushworth on the number 12 VW Golf, and safely by just before Stone.
Yeah, indeed. So lots of jostling for position here as we I suspect we're just yet. They may well roll the dice and see if we get a safety car. Good time to make stop Vegas in the thick black smoke coming out of the number 12 car. Just to confirm the fact that it is a TDI rather than a GTI. That will be the diesel engine Golf. And it does go pretty well, although it is smoke screen at the moment for those behind it.
Yes, evoking memories of VW Racing Cup, I suppose, a few years ago. We had all sorts of VWs, all descriptions, but particularly the types of Golf, the R32, the diesel power, the petrol powered as well. And belching black smoke, however, Scott Parkin is in 10th position and able to lap at similar pace to those in front as well as behind, so that's not necessarily a final finishing position for Scott Parkin. There is, though, this difficulty for, is that still the treble eight?
The treble eight car.
Well, it got going again.
Yeah, well, it's somehow made its way back to pit lane anyway, so the team are working on that, which is encouraging at least that it might get back out into the race for the second half. But again, it's nice to see that shaking car out on the grid. It is the car owned by Graham Price and prepared by Pure Truck and various different drivers in the course of this season. so far. That Scott parking golf we're looking at, owned by Enduro. That is an ex-VW car. It was run by Slide Sports originally. It's in 270 brake horsepower TDI trim, as prepared by Darkside Motorsport, who are specialists in diesel engined cars. Is that the 98 car? That's the car going a bit slowly of Roy Baptiste and Tim Harlan. That was off a few laps ago, wasn't it? That's fourth in class at the moment. Second and third coming towards is a little bit more spread out than they have been for most of the race, actually, about a second and a half between them. Then next on the road is that 66 car of the class leading BMW class C leading car, which was started by Johnny Hayes on this occasion. So it will have to serve a 10-second penalty at its pit stop to the halfway point through the race. So he turns his way onto the straight. There's the 12 car that's now into the pit. Now this could well be from mandatory stop, of course, because we are now into the pit lane window. It's a mandatory 3-minute stop, so there doesn't look like there's any particularly feverish activity there, Johnny. They're just trying to keep things as cool as possible.
Yeah, plug the laptop in, make sure all of the data is favourable, that the readouts are producing the data that is expected, rather than any issues with sky-high engine temperature, for instance. There is the need for fuel in this stop, though, as well. So that's now going in via the rear passenger window, where the dump churn has been attached. Tyre pressures, I'm sure, have been taken as well. No need for a driver change, because Scott Parkin is tackling this 2-hour and 5-minute race all on his own. He started 17th. He's gained good ground to make his first stop from 10th position.
Yeah, driver has to be out of the car while the refuelling is going on. You can see Scott there just standing to the right while one team member fueled the car, another was standing by with the fire extinguisher. That's a requirement. All teams must have that kind of setup for safety reasons in the pit lane. Hopefully fire extinguisher is never required, but good to have it there should it be necessary to call it into action. It's closed up again for second place, hasn't it, between Joseph Marshall and Ben Rushworth. They're just lapping actually that Tolden Commodore of Matty Taylor and Will Ashmore. It's still Matty Taylor at the wheel of car number 46 at the moment. That's a 2009 Holden Commodore, by the way, with a 6.2 litre V8 engine. It's next Bahrain supercar, so it's been raced in the Middle East.
Interesting. There were some V8 supercar races held at Bahrain a good few years ago now, but probably a car also based in the Middle East and raced there frequently. Way to the UK provides a little more varied field for us today. Club Enduro. Still fairly early on in this race as the McGann slows up now.
It is the treble eight, yeah.
Turn to the racetrack. So still not sure how the McGann got back to the paddock, whether that was via the external and then internal roads, or whether it was able to fire up under its own steam and make its way back to the pits. But the team have worked on it very quickly. Great to see it back into the race. Just in the background there, emerging at the far. 86, Joseph Marshall from number 2, Ben Rushworth. Second and third in this all Cupra dice. Remember, it's a Cupra that leads as well in the hands of Carl Swift.
A spinner down here at Abbey. It's Luke Rouse that's gone around for the second time. So yellow flags wave there. You can see the car recovering back into the race. Lights are flashing on Joseph Marshall's car, because he is keen not to be held up here by slower cars. He's got the Scirocco ahead of him, who's on Hufelar. Steve Compton will drive that car later on. So they're both clear of that now, but they're catching a car that is similar in pace to them, I think. Mark Price in that Audi, which had this disastrous qualifying session. That car is lapping, or has been lapping the 1:13s. These have been lapping the 1:12, so it'd be a bit tougher, I think, for them to get past this particular back marker. It'd be interesting to see if Price chooses to make it easy for them or not.
Tail of the Joseph Marshall car stepping out a little bit as he turned in at Abbey, so he needed to collect a slight slide and a cleaner run for Ben Rushworth through that sequence of corners. Right-hander at Abbey.
So that piece of stone has ruined my race.
While we're looking at that, I was looking at our CCTV, which shows the 12 car still in the pit lane, that Golf. Now, it's a 3-minute stop, but that feels like we've had more than 3 minutes now. There it is. And they have got the bonnet open. They were looking very calm and relaxed a few moments ago. They're now looking a little bit more concerned under the bonnet. I could see Bob Blackmore, one of our scrutineers, our chief scrutineer indeed, keeping an eye on what's going on as well. But it looks like what was a very relaxed pit stop has now become a somewhat dramatic one for the car that was second place in Class B.
Some of the superficial bodywork, that grille has just been unclipped. Are they bothered about engine temperature? Maybe the radiator, which will sit just in front of the engine there, but all enclosed within what is a large front bumper on a modern-day VW Golf.
Yes, 99 laps, tantalisingly. We couldn't quite make it to the 100, even without a safety car there. But Rob Baker and Carl Swift taking the win just over the 2-hour 5-minute mark by 58 hundredths of a second. So not car number 1 takes the win from number 2, Ramsden and Rushworth. They were 49 seconds behind. Third, number 15, Gillespie and Dryborough. Fourth, number 86, Marshall and Townsend. Fifth, number 69, Hampton and Schultz. Sixth, the number 6 car of the Wallace brothers. Seventh, number 92, Phil Noble and Andrew Raff. Then into Class B, and 8th overall winning Class B was number 14, Chris Freeman. He was 3 laps behind the leader. 51, Luke Handy was 2nd, and Steve Houston and Matt Fazy 3rd in the class and 10th overall. A little bit further behind them, we have Lewis Rose and Aaron Rose. We barely mentioned them, but they were 4th in Class B, ahead of Jonathan Packer, number 5. And then there'll be some cars here that are taken out of the results, like Alan Henderson, because he didn't make it to the checkered flag. But if we focus in on what's going on there with 18th position, that's Joel Oswick, our Class C winner, and he beat Johnny Hayes and Paul Supiani in car 66, and Nick Dougal even, and John Monroe in car number 3. Then the Christopher Jones and Matt George, Mini Cooper S was 4th within that class, ahead of Matthew Higgins and his Honda Civic. And then you can see that the Team Brit car of Yvonne Huffelaar and Simon Crompton made it home in 26th position overall, so well done to that particular team that we're hearing from earlier on. And I think everybody else that you can see, and indeed on the next screen, failed to make it to the checkered flag. So that brings the Tagiwa Club Enduro Championship race to its conclusion. We'll see them again at Anglesey just a few weeks from now.